folks. Dave Brown here on a Sunday night. Thank you for joining me. Just a quick NeoCon watch. We had Nikki Haley, who is running for president in the Republican Party. She had a town hall on CNN with Jake Tapper, and you may not have been aware of it. Why would you? It's CNN, it's Jake Tapper, and it's NeoCon Nikki Haley. Now, if you've seen my other videos, I am not a fan of Nikki Haley. I've always said she's establishment. I've always said she's a neocon. And what I think she did during Trump's presidency was very slick. I'll give her credit for this. She's a very slick political operator. She got in his administration at the UN, but then she left before things got too hot. And where she'll be in a position to have to stand there and take those arrows next to Donald Trump. But again, she got out quickly and stayed out the scene, and just waited for her time to announce that she was running for president and then pop back up, and that's what's happened. So I think she was very clever in how she played it, and good for her as far as being a political operator, but I just don't trust her. But in this town hall, she was talking about Ukraine. And of course, in the last town hall with Donald Trump on CNN, Trump refused to say that he wanted Ukraine to win. But in this town hall, Haley, she went right at it, full on neocon. John Bolton, I'm sure, was very proud of her with her answer, her support of Ukraine. So I want to play a short clip from CNN, her answer, or her talking about the Ukraine war, that shows just how much she is a neocon.
This is bigger than Ukraine. This is a war about freedom, and it's one we have to win. A win for Ukraine is a win for all of us, because tyrants tell us exactly what they're going to do. What we heard, China said they were going to take Hong Kong, they did it. Russia said they were going to invade Ukraine, we watched that happen. China says Taiwan's next, we better believe them. Russia said Poland and the Baltics are next. If that happens, we're looking at a world war. This is about preventing war. And so the way you prevent war is not that we give cash to Ukraine, not that we put troops on the ground, but that we get with our allies and we make sure that we give them the equipment and the ammunition to win. Because when Ukraine wins, that sends a message to China with Taiwan. It sends a message to Iran that wants to build a bomb. It sends a message to North Korea testing ballistic missiles. And it sends a message to Russia that it's over.
Now, the first thing she talks about is freedom. This is about freedom. And where have I heard that before? Let me think about this. Oh, wait, we had Iraq. What was it called? Operation Iraqi Freedom, right? And then we had Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. So anytime these clowns talk about freedom, be very, very suspicious. That by now should signal to us that they're talking out their backsides. Always concerned about other people's freedom as we rain down bombs on their country, or watch as bystanders as their country gets destroyed. If America wants to bring you freedom, you should be very nervous. Now, another thing she says is that we're trying to prevent war, which is odd because we have a war. Perhaps a way to prevent war would have been, before this started, when Vladimir Putin on several occasions tried to reach out to talk to the United States, last time being December 2021, maybe we should have talked to him. But why weren't we? Well, we know under Trump, our deep state basically made it impossible for Trump to talk to Putin. And I've always said, go back to 2016, all the Russiagate stuff that wasn't true. This was all a setup for something they knew was coming, which was a confrontation in Ukraine. And they wanted to make sure Donald Trump didn't ruin this by talking to Putin and working this out peacefully. We always intended for this war to happen. Why do I know that? Because the Rand Corporation in 2019 said, how do we destabilize Russia? And one of the strategies they had was, let's give them weapons and draw Russia into a protracted war in Ukraine. That's what we said we were going to do in 2019. And here we are now. And another reason I know we always planned to have this war was 2008, Bill Burns. He was the U.S. ambassador to Russia, and he's the current CIA director. But he said in 2008 in a memo that Ukraine was a red line for Russia, and that if we messed around with Ukraine with NATO and weapons and turning Ukraine against Russia, it would start a war, a civil war in Ukraine, where Russia would have to decide to intervene, whether or not they were going to intervene. So he was saying this back in 2008. So we were well aware of what was happening in Ukraine and the potential for Russia to intervene at a certain point. Of course, there's been a war in the Donbass for 8 years since 2014, thousands killed. And finally, Putin said, I've sat on my hands long enough. We're going to go in and take care of this. And then we act shocked. Oh my God, why did Putin do this? This was unprovoked act of aggression. Nonsense. We knew exactly what was going on, and we were expecting this outcome. Now, she also talks about the potential for Russia to threaten the rest of Europe, going into Poland. Now, come on, folks. I think what she's referring to is Medvedev. Medvedev goes on Twitter and he flaps his gator. He says a bunch of things that, just to be provocative, Russia is not going to invade Poland. And even the thought that that was going to happen by Nikki Haley to even suggest that is preposterous and a more scaremongering. That is not going to happen. In fact, I don't think Putin wants to go even to Kiev. He just wants to get that part, those four new regions, maybe Odessa and Kharkiv. After that, he wants to stop. This is not a fun process for Russia over a year and a half now, or almost a year and a half. So the idea that this war is going to expand into Poland at any point, pretty stupid. And then she says that Ukraine needs to win. We got to teach Putin a lesson. The problem, though, is that if Ukraine wins or starts winning, and this threatens Russia's existence in their estimation, because then NATO moves into Ukraine. If Ukraine wins, now you got the entirety of Russia sealed off by NATO, weapons on their borders, pointing at Moscow. That would be an existential threat to Russia. So they cannot lose. And if for some reason they started losing, they might turn to tactical nuclear weapons, which would be a disaster. But that being said, they're not losing. Bakhmut has fallen. They are producing munitions at a rate that we could not predict. We thought they were going to run out of ammunition, artillery, and missiles a year ago. And yet they're still raining down every day. So that is not a problem. The Russian war machine can keep up. The war machine that can't keep up is NATO, which is why all these countries in NATO are squabbling about who's going to give what weapons, because everybody's running low, and we simply cannot produce the weapons to keep Ukraine in the fight indefinitely. So at some point, Ukraine will simply run out of weapons, and again, Russia will then steamroll in. So Russia is going to win this conflict. It's going to take a while. They have their own timeline. Ukraine is not going to win. All we're doing is prolonging the suffering for Ukraine. And unfortunately, I think we missed our opportunity for negotiations back in April of last year when the two sides were actually negotiating in Turkey, Ukraine and Russia, until the United States came in, Boris Johnson, and we said, stop talking, shut down negotiations. Again, because the United States and Boris Johnson does not care how many bodies are stacked in Ukrainians, because as Lindsey Graham said, we will fight to the last Ukrainian. And I say, how magnanimous to offer somebody else to fight until they're all gone. No Americans are suffering, no Americans are fighting. Ukraine does all the fighting and all the dying, and we reap all the rewards. because we get to hurt Russia, put on sanctions on them, and try to fulfill our geopolitical objectives. So it really is quite sick, and I caution any country in the world that says that thinks that the United States is their ally. We'll be your ally until it's time not to be your ally, and then we'll up and leave you like we did in Afghanistan or after being there for 20 years, which we should have done. But we'll leave, and then everything will fall apart after we're gone. And but that's what we do, the United States. So don't trust us, Taiwan. Be very careful. So Nikki Haley, hopefully she never sniffs the Oval Office as president or VP. Um, but we'll see how this all shakes out once the debates start. Um, the establishment definitely likes her. She will do exactly what they say. She is a complete neocon, complete establishment, and much worse than I think Tim Scott, much worse than DeSantis. So hopefully her campaign goes nowhere, and I'll be here to help in the very little way I can to make sure it goes nowhere by exposing her and talking about her nonsense. So I'll keep doing that as the months go by into into this primary process. Well, that's it for now. If you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.